Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to do a video for you today. It is about a missing person case, a cold case, an old case from 1981. That was the year I graduated high school, and so that was many years ago. There's an Odessa Crimestoppers, which you're looking at right now, and for this, and so I'll just jump into the specifics, and you're going to find this real interesting how it might tie back into the crimes here. Okay, so her name is Judy Kay Munguia. So her gender's female, date of birth 1948, 5'3", hair black, Caucasian, 71, 150 pounds, hazel hair. Miss Munguia was last seen on May 28, 1981 in Odessa when she left home to visit a friend in Oklahoma City. And she was missing as of May 1st, 1981. Okay, and her Lowry was her maiden name. She may be from Hobbs, New Mexico, my hometown. I think that's where her mother was from, Dimples. And so just keep finding these links back to my hometown. Here's the little short read on it. In May of 1981, 32-year-old Judy Kay Munguia disappeared from her home on McKnight Street in North Odessa. She has never been seen nor heard from again. She was supposedly going to Oklahoma City, and her vehicle was later found in an airport parking lot. But those who knew her best do not believe Judy Munguia would have ever just walked away, leaving her then 11-year-old son behind. And we think they are right. There has been a lot of speculation over the years about what really happened to Judy Munguia, and law enforcement officers believe foul play is involved. Okay. So that is right straight from the Odessa Crimestoppers. If you got a tip, call it in to them. And here's the Charlie Project. They do a lot of the missing persons, and I pulled it up because one, it's got some pictures here, circa 1981 pictures, and it might have a little information other people don't have here. Distinguishing characteristics: Caucasian female, black hair, hazel eyes, has a scar on her left leg between the knee and ankle, ears are pierced. Some agencies may misspell her last name Munguia, Mungia, instead of Munguia. Okay, and then here's their write-up is a little bit longer, and so I'll just read its quick read. Munguia was last seen departing a residence in the 5500 block of McKnight in Odessa, Texas at approximately 1 a.m. on May 28, 1981. She was planning to drive to a friend's house in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma at the time. She told her husband she planned to be gone for several days. She was driving a gray 1977 Lincoln Continental. Munguia never arrived at her destination and has not been seen again. She was reported missing 5 days after she was last seen. Her car was found abandoned at Will Rogers World Airport in Oklahoma City on November 14th, nearly 6 months after her initial disappearance. Authorities determined that the vehicle was parked in the airport's lot since June 7th. There was no trace of Munguia at the scene, and 2 small pieces of luggage she took with her were not in the car. 5 spent .22 caliber bullet casings were behind the back seat of the car. Foul play is suspected in Munguia's disappearance. Her family does not believe she would have abandoned her young son or left without telling anyone. She dropped out of high school and married young, but eventually got her GED. She was an involved mother and also had a close relationship with her parents. Her case remains unsolved. Okay, so that's the Charlie Project there. I just Googled her name. Anybody can do that. Here's another article that I found. Odessa American posted this newspaper in Odessa. It was posted in 2012. Missing person gets a break, but I don't think that was this case. But here's what I want to read to you. Judy's sister, Jackie Kemp Jones, here is the sister of a woman missing for almost 31 years, Judy Munguia. Munguia was reported missing May 28, 1981, when she left to visit a friend in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and law enforcement officers believe foul play was involved. Kemp Jones said her family all but lost hope when the woman's vehicle was found abandoned at Oklahoma City Airport parking lot 6 months later. But even now, reports of found bodies rekindle the possibility that she would be found dead or alive. We'd much rather know than wonder. Know where she was at so we could actually bury her in a place where she belongs, not in a ditch or in cement or wherever she may be. I thought that was real interesting because here in a minute we're going to hear the word cement again. There's a huge possibility that she may never be found ever, and that hurts. Until that time, Kemp Jones said she still becomes nervous when a body is found, such as the remains found in Big Springs in March. Remember, that's a 2012 story, which was just like I barely got out of the hospital after being ambushed and shot inside my home. Rogers said most families still keep an active watch for tips and come to her office at least once a year. Every family member I've spoken to about a missing person, regardless of how old the case is, has hope. Okay, and so that was just found that, and then also doing my Google search here, I found a 1981 newspaper clipping right here, and I thought this was interesting. We're gonna blow that up here in a minute. And the other thing was Web Sleuths. That's a website where people come in here and try to solve crimes, from the internet that they heard about. And most of all this here is the same thing we just heard before. They don't believe that she would have walked away. This was interesting, which it was in that Charlie report. Reports 5 spent 22 bullet casings behind the back seat, but clean other than that. Kind of a strange location for them to be. It's what this guy writes, Coffee 56, and there is the Charlie Project stuff right there. And this right here was from the high school yearbook, age 16. That was Odessa High, so evidently she didn't go to Hobbs High. And there's her picture there, and there's the guy that posted it, And here's one more last comment. And she told her husband she planned to be gone for several days. They seem very vague arrangements, especially when she had a young son. And so back to the clipping. Remember I said I had a clipping here, and I downloaded it here. And what I'm going to do is blow it up so I can read it. And here's what I found interesting. We'll go down here to the bottom here, and there's her husband, Lupe Munguia, and they were going to talk about him in a minute. Here's a little bit. Munguia was expected to travel to a friend's home, Oklahoma City. We ought to know that. But unlike Munguia's parents, who have lost most hope of ever seeing their daughter alive again, her husband believes that she's alive. She'll be back. Munguia said he had heard reports that his wife had been seen in both Odessa and Monaghan since she was reported missing. But Primera said the sightings cannot be substantiated. I think that was a detective. Lupe Munguia filed a missing persons report on June 5th, I guess, with the Ector County Sheriff's Office. Primera told said 2 small luggage articles Munguia reported took with her were not found in the car, nor have any purchases been made with several credit cards she carried. Kemp said the experience with the Dallas psychic was a disappointment because they got a psychic, and so that this year in 1981, that was when this article was published there, which is interesting. Okay, now it's going to get real interesting. There's an editor for the Odessa American that I've known all my life. She grew up across the lake from me in Hobbs. Me and her late brother were best friends. Her name is Laura Ludewell Dennis, and she had told me when I first moved to Midland about this story, and she said, yeah, the rumor is that Judy is buried in some concrete poured right after she went missing, and the husband was the suspect. And so I don't know how Laura Ludewell Dennis, but she's an editor for the Odessa American, so law enforcement should talk to her, and because she absolutely told me that, and I don't think it's something she would deny or lie about. Interestingly, right after these crimes first started, I was talking to Laura. She lived over there in Odessa. I've known her all my life, and she's the one that suggested I call my first private investigator, the one that come up in the attic when my brother come over, Finley Investigations, on that day. And just mysteriously, after I was ambushed and shot, man, never shares my story. The Odessa American has never reported on the secret police or the Haley Dunn, the dozen people documented of reporting, the Haley was killed in Odessa, and she's an editor for the Odessa American. Real weird, and absolutely no support from this lifelong friend, from Hobbs, New Mexico. Anyways, here's this screenshot from a guy named Charlie Franks Jr. I don't know him. He was a Facebook friend. And I posted about Judy Munguia. And he writes, crazy story. They won't do anything either, I bet. Okay. He goes on. He says, I saw the post about the missing lady. I've lived here all of my life, and your information is correct. What the lady may or may not have said was that she had $1 million insurance policy that her husband collected and now has several businesses on that spot. My papa, Malcolm Owens, poured the concrete slab that you're talking about. I'm almost positive she's under that slab. And then I said, between me and you, the woman who was at the 2010 oil show party and told me about the girl being murdered for refusing to prostitute used to be married to Lupe Munguia, the son, or he might be the nephew of this Lupe Munguia. I have a feeling this family is involved in the human trafficking in the area. And that was just based on comments that Angie Munguia, I recently released her name because she's the one that told me about the young girl being murdered at the old show. She didn't say any of her family was there, though. I'm sure they are brothers. I know them. They all creep me out. I suspect that somebody in the family may have involvement in the underground facility, human trafficking crimes against me, but I don't have any proof of that, And so, all I know is somebody, Angie told me about a young girl being murdered at the oil show. There's a lot of evidence backing that up. There's a lot of evidence the underground homes here, and then somebody under my home shot me, and that person's never been, arrested. That we can bet on. Okay, he's made so much money on the insurance that he's bought up the whole block almost, and made new business right there, making it impossible for cops to pinpoint her body. It won't be much longer, man, and someone will slip up. I said I seen miracle after miracle, and I won't be surprised if this is another unsolved murder that is solved. Yes, sir. Light will find a path in this darkness. And I said, God has got this. So anyway, I was going to share with you that what Charlie Franks said about his papa. Recently, there was a longtime law enforcement officers over in Odessa, Joe Commander, that retired. These are pictures from his retirement party, and a friend of mine, another person that had information on the Haley Dunn murder. She saw these pictures and says, that's Lupe Munguia, and I'm guessing that's him. I don't know. One of these people here is Lupe Munguia, and she knew him. I didn't know, I don't know that man, and that is the husband of the missing woman, But what I found interesting, he was friends with Joe Commander, and what I'm going to do is talk about Joe Commander. He recently retired, as I said. Here's a 2016. I found this on CBS 7's news site. Guy David Martinez wrote this. I can't confirm it. February 6, 2016, a quick Google search of crooked cop Joe Commander Odessa brings an interesting read concerning Joe Commander's ethics, And then he goes on, he says, and I think he worked with him. He said, we constantly doctored videos and reports. We continually lied on affidavits, claiming informants observed contraband when they didn't. And here I'm just doing the highlight. It was the citizens of Odessa who allowed us to behave like a band of wild mafia narco cops, similar to the behavior of Mexican police. And so he was a cop, I guess. David Martinez was talking about Joe Commander, and remember, this is a friend of Lupe Munguia, okay? And so here's another print screen of a conversation and Joe Commander's name. That's what I'm just looking up, Joe Commander's names here. And at the top, I wrote, these are old, it says, I haven't named this person because they were afraid of being killed by members of the Odessa gang that several people have said killed Haley Dunn. She told me that Brandy Dunn called and reported where to find Haley, and that Brandy and Billy Dunn, Haley's mom, were Joe Commander's girls. Based on what I was told from others, I took this to mean as in forced prostitution. I wondered if it was connected with the underground oil show parties, And here I'm writing, I was told that he was upset and told them to dig her up and move her. And that was Haley Dunn, is what we were talking about. And then she was found in Scurry County 2 days after I emailed the Department of Justice and suggested they look in the underground facility here. Haley Dunn's remains were found 2 days after I wrote. And that's a fact. I mean, I've got the email, time-stamped emails. She'd been missing over 2 years. As soon as I suggest somebody looks in underground homes here, they find her remains. What a coinky dinky, huh? And this person, I know more than I ever want to. No, sir. And the so-called person who called and reported where to find her was truly no other than Brandy Dunn. By the way, Haley's mom, who is Billy Dunn, was also one of Joe Commander's girls, just like Brandy was and still is. Your main cop of interest is Joe Commander. Ties are Brandy Dunn. They fall from here in Odessa. Odessa is the county where Haley was killed. One more person saying that Haley Dunn was killed over in Odessa. And remember, that's what I'm saying. Remember my lifelong friend, Ludewell Dennis, an editor for the Odessa American. I got a dozen people documented saying Haley was killed in Odessa, and they've never reported on that. Doesn't that seem weird? I was told that Brandy Dunn and Billy Dunn were Joe Commander's girls. And here was just some more of the print screen. But yes, it's weird, but Brandy goes by a lot of names because she is a paid informant of Joe Commander's. And honestly, she uses so-called names of friends dating back to '05. You have had more run-ins with Brandy than you think. And so I don't realize that. And here I'm commenting, Brandy Dunn told me that the murder of Haley Dunn and Cody Mercer were recorded in police possession. I have the print screen where Brandy Dunn had contacted me. And then I wrote, I was dating a woman that worked in my building at Clandesta, and that was Judy Munguia. She is the one that was at the oil show party, and that is who the cop told me to not talk to again. It wasn't Brandy, okay? So the police officer had called me. I was trying to get Angie to go report the murder she told me about, but she was afraid and said high-level police were there. And then I got a call from a police officer that threatened to arrest me if I talked to Angie again, and that was the last time I talked. I hadn't talked to her since 2010, probably November 2010. I never released her name, but it wasn't Brandy. I know her well. But I know that Brandy has given your name out a few. She says off the walls stuck. She has reported you to Joe a few times. And then once again, that's Joe Commander. And I went on to say, she told me that the murder of Haley was connected with the murder of Cody Mercer, and other people have confirmed that. And I'm talking about Brandy Dunn told me that. And I have a print screen on that. We're not going to get into that because it's not about Haley Dunn's murder. Here's a whole different person, Jessica Lee Hadley. I've been to 2,000 oil shows, and I tell you what, there's more than just one that was murdered or raped because she didn't want to do whatever they wanted her to do. And I don't know if you know of Joe Commander. Well, he is totally and absolutely corrupt. The guy that replaced him, Mike something, when I was arrested, he drove me around for 6.5 hours, told me if I wanted my children not taken, that I would go ahead and snitch. I could have my children. I didn't snitch. I ended up spending 11 months in jail, and then ended up dropping the charges. And while I was in jail, they had made the CPS come. While I was in jail, they made CPS come and take my children. And this happens all the time to women that don't cooperate or will not do what they want them to do. Okay, that's what Jessica Lee Hadley was saying. There's a lot more that Jessica said. Okay. So I've jumped all on this on this Joe Commander because of that picture of him with Lupe Munguia, okay? And me and Angie used to sit and talk about this missing person for Judy Munguia because, that was her family. I think she was married to the nephew or something right there, okay? And there's a print screen here. I just within the last couple of weeks released her name, and she's now married. And I pray that I always liked Angie. I pray that she went to law enforcement. I know she was afraid because high-level police were at the party, and we've suspected maybe it was Painter because Joe Lozano said that Sheriff Painter used to hang out in underground facilities, and so. I hope that, but maybe there's information back on Judy Munguia. Okay, here is the oil show for the 2010. This is the schedule, so everybody knows this is the week that Angie told me about the young girl drying. It started on October 25th, 2010, and the last day was October 28th, 2010. Interestingly, on this day, a guy named Michael Sean Williams dies, okay? And somebody took his picture and his name and created a fake Facebook profile and sent it to me and was commenting all this. And I forwarded, and when I found out that it was faked off a guy that died on the last day of the oil show, then I've turned that into law enforcement. A lot of people suspected maybe that Michael Sean Williams has a connection to that girl that was murdered at the oil show. Okay, that's a whole nother story. The 2008 oil show started. They come every 2 years, and this was the schedule for the 2008. And interestingly, the previous owner in my home, Mike Lawhon, dies the week before the 2008 oil show starts. And I think that's important because it's believed that there is a underground facility in the backyard used for oil show parties. Okay, this is the Midland Crimestoppers for a young girl that was found. Her remains were found in 2013. Keep in mind, my friend Angie Munguia told me that about a young girl that was murdered at the 2010 oil show party. She was leaving my house and at the party in 5 minutes. Homicide suspected, 14 to 21 years old. This is a current Crimestoppers. I've been contacting law enforcement over that, and I want to show you here. Okay, here's my home. This is the Google Earth picture right here. I was shot right here. Somebody by surprise. They tried to kill me in my home. They cut my phone lines and shot me by surprise. So somewhere out there, it's some very extremely dangerous criminals that are tunneling under homes and they're killing unsuspecting homeowners. And I believe they killed the guy who lived here before me. In my backyard, it's believed there's one of them underground facilities, and I'm suspecting that they come in. There was a tunnel put in right here. You can see where that ditch was cut, where the asphalt changes color behind Home Depot. And then here in the parking lot, I had a Home Depot clerk told me one time, said, if you see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, it's because we're stalking. And I hadn't asked that, thought about it, nothing. I thought, that's a clue. She's telling me that the people at the oil show parties, who would be a lot of people, would need a lot of parking, would need an excuse, And then they were probably parking here, going underground here, coming back over the tunnel here, and then down here is where the forced prostitution was going on, and where that young girl was murdered. And I bet it's her remains that were found in 2013. And the reason that you haven't seen any news stories on it, because people in our press are trying to cover that up. That's my thoughts. And then you can do this yourself. This interactive. You can go to Google Maps, maps.google.com, look at my address, 3802 Fair Circle, and switch between the map and the satellite views, and you see a large bunker in my backyard, or a large facility in my backyard. But when you go to the satellite view, it's not there. Okay, let's go back. It's there. It's not there. You can do that right now and look. Okay, now keep in mind, I recorded a woman telling me that there was 4 3-bedroom underground homes, 25 foot deep, each costing over $1 million a piece. Okay, another woman, Layla O'Brien, I documented her telling me she worked on this. It was called the Safe House Project, cost $7.35 million and was finished in 1987. She believed the Bushes were connected with it. Rhonda Denman Rogers told me there was an underground home a half block away. That's not, Buddy said, I got a print screen of it. Okay. And then the woman on the phone told me the recording, there was 4 3-bedroom underground homes and at least 25 foot deep, cost over $1 million a piece, which confirms what Layla said. And they were having pedophile parties down there, okay? And so right here, I tell you what, I've even wondered if Haley Dunn wasn't there during the 2010 oil show party. And the reason I say that, it was found out that her mother, Billy Dunn, was a stripper, okay? And, and maybe Joe Commander was forcing her to strip under threat of taking her kids away. I don't know. But anyways, it makes sense that Billy was at the oil show parties. And I have a print screen where a woman said that she was taking Haley to the strip clubs with her, 13-year-old little girl. And so if she's taking her to strip clubs, it makes sense she took her to the oil show parties. I figured all the strippers in the area were ordered to work just like Angie was. These 2 guys approached Angie and told her she was going to work. I saw the tears in her eyes on that Sunday night before the week of the oil show, And so, and then interesting, I've provided Homeland Security all this because they're supposed to take care of human trafficking, right? And so I met them at the Home Depot. I took them behind the store, right where I showed you on the Google Maps. I gave them that Google map, and then 2 weeks later, the ground's dug up, concrete's being poured. I've long suspected this was to cover up the human trafficking murder tunnels, and then I got it on video. This is a video I have 2 weeks after showing Homeland that I believe a tunnel was going here that was used for the oil show parties, which was used in the murder of that little girl, and they're pouring concrete, and that's tampering with evidence in the capital murder as far as I'm concerned. And later, just a couple of weeks later, U.S. Congressman Conaway from Midland announces that he's retiring. Come to find out, his brother-in-law used to live across the street from my home. And I've got somebody telling me that there's 4 underground homes here in tunnels, okay? And so his brother-in-law used to live across the street, and then he retires right after the concrete. I bet the concrete wasn't even cured when he announced his retirement. 3 months later, Secretary of Homeland resigns. 6 days later, Secretary of Energy resigns. And that was Rick Perry. He was the governor of Texas when I was ambushed and shot. He was governor of Texas when Mike Lahan, the last homeowner that died the week before the 2008 oil show was died, and he was also governor when this little girl was killed at that oil show party. And so maybe we can solve several murders here. No accusations are made. I'm just trying to throw out the evidence here. And, we're trying to solve some crimes. What I know is absolute proof shows I wasn't shot with my gun. So we know somebody came to my home and shot me. And that person is still out there. And hopefully law enforcement get them arrested before they sneak in your home and shoot you or your family by surprise. This is Buddy, Midland, Texas.